standpoint of drawing those learning outcomes from each of these things, which we already have our competencies that we decided yesterday that we had on the board. So now what we have to be able to do to get from here to here, which is where we start the real work that we care about at the end of the tangible product, is looking at our different levels of where we need to be. We got hung up in the talk this morning about where each level is, where they are, what the target is. At this point, it doesn't matter, because right now we can just address them. When we start doing the T&R events, that's when we'll decide, is it formal, is it MIJT, is it something that needs to happen before we get here. So and then that will in itself frame, okay, because then when we have these, then we can do the card sorting, the labeling, what is that level 1 course, what's the level 2 course, what's the level 3 course, or is there a level 1 and level 2? Doesn't matter, all that will flow in. Okay, this is formal, these are going to formal, then we'll worry about where we're sorting those. Right now, all I want to do is go back to what we had on the board, and we have pictures of all this stuff, so nobody's screaming when I erase. So you want to look at the one that starts with systems. It should be the first one in your cycle or your stack of paperwork. Okay, so from these, there should be, or you should be able to see or be able to categorize, or what outcome, and again, all this was framed towards the planning, the preparation, the preparing of the instructor before it gets on the ice. What am I doing before? So a lot of different things in here. So how can we draw them or group them as need be into a learning outcome? So take a look at these. Okay. And then start, and what we're going to do is we're going to pull out what those are, and then we'll address at this level, at this level, at this level. Okay, I'm basic, or I don't want to say basic, level 1, I can't say that either. New instructor, intermediate instructor, experienced master, towards the end instructor. Okay, which I argued this morning and yesterday that would be a 3, 4, and 5, whichever, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I'm new, I'm in the middle, I'm at the end. So start, this is what I'm looking for first though, is what these are based on what we discussed, what's in those KPAs, and then what we already came to the conclusion of being the competencies that we wanted to see, those requirements, those characteristics, those qualities of instructors that we pulled out yesterday.
See, it seems like to me that what I'm seeing, at least on this page, should be for all of them. This is just maybe how well they do it at each stage might be
Yes.
different.
Okay. So give me one.
So
Not kill, but give me one.
assessing effectiveness.
Okay, so assessing effectiveness. And we'll do all these, and then we'll attack the levels. Okay?
Rehearsal.
Okay, let me back up. I'm going to put rehearsal, but then let me back up one. Major Zimmerman, when you were saying that one, is there any other ones that we would kind of put under that so that we know we're collapsing?
I read the top one off of the key performance areas.
Okay.
Is that correct? I think everything we wrote on the board and the 9 and the 10 key performance areas would apply
Okay.
to every.
I thought that when we took the vote, that group decided or voted that the 10 key performance areas were in a sense the 10 learning outcomes.
We said that that's what we'd use for the program outcome.
Now, the program outcome is a blanket statement, which in this case would be similar to what's written there. The learning outcomes would be based off of that program outcome. We haven't defined the program outcome yet, but I thought when we took that vote, everybody for the most said that those KPAs was going to be those learning outcomes derived from that program outcome. Was that not what we voted on?
I thought it was that was the program outcome. The 10 they were the program outcome, and then the levels were the learning outcomes. That's what.
So the program outcome, when we talked about what I guess the definition of what that is the paragraph, the sentence, the one-liner, whatever you call it, that captures what an instructor is. Not 10. Those 10 would break out into learning outcomes for that instructor, and that's what I thought we.
Lines of effort.
Right, or horizontal themes like TBS calls them, or whatever the case is. Those KPAs, really, honestly, encapsulates, for the most part, what makes up that instructor, right? That would be the learning outcomes for that instructor. And then, so, I don't know if that's where you're going with it.
Vanna, tell me what's going on the board.
Well, I was under the impression that you would have just automatically written those 10, and then we would have started from there. Am I wrong? Because what we wrote on the board and what was taken pictures of and provided to you, whereas Marco says instructional, what are they called? Components, or components of those outcomes, right? And that's where we start the grouping of those components, and we did that already, right? We said out of all those components we wrote, did all those tie back to those 10 horizontal themes or those 10 learning areas? And we all said yes, right? So based off of those 10 outcomes is where I think now we're further down the road in regards to defining those into what you were really, in a sense, leading to in regards to not the levels or the novice, the intermediate, the more advanced, right? And then maybe defining those 10 outcomes into defining the new, I guess, 3 different lanes for each of those 10, and at what point down that continuum would they meet that mark. That's where I was under the impression. Chime in at any point in time, because this is just Oli. So.
And I agree, but I don't think that all 10 are going to be up there. For that particular one, we'll see planning and preparation, we'll see communication, delivery. You know, we may not see developing subordinate peers on that particular screen. So we just need to determine out of the 10 which ones belong to that screen, and then group all of the things that fall underneath it, such as all the preparation, all the review, all those things will go underneath those. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah,
Well, see,
that makes sense.
I mean, going back to your qualifier for developing subordinates to establish a relationship with students, that's rapport. That's in every master lesson file we have out there, so it is included. So if you're gonna go down that road, I agree with Oli to go ahead and put them all up there, and then you just put that sliding scale that we all say, the rubric, where are the elements at in order to do the snapshot of 6 out of 10, 12 out of 15, linear progression up.
So what I'm hearing, I'm going to put the 10 areas up here. You're going to go through what was on the boards prior and tell me what goes in.
Yeah, because that's going to, and my thought, I mean, in a sense of a learning analysis approach, that's going to help frame where we're going to pull those T&R events from, right?
I'm
just trying to understand, but okay, so the outcome of there's a program. It's the life cycle of an instructor that's in the Marine Corps. And that's what that program outcome is, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the end state of that program, when I retire after 20 years of service and I'm a master instructor, is I'm a Jedi Knight with all 10 of these things. So I'm an expert. Is that the end state?
That's,
Not
yes.
necessarily when you retire, but.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm being silly. At the end state, either I do it in 2 years, because I'm just like that, or I do it in 20 years.
Yeah.
But that's the Jedi Knight, right, on the council.
That's what I'm trying.
Yes.
Okay. So each of these, in the old realm, these would be TLOs,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
So you're
or
saying.
T&R events.
Well, I'm sorry, T&R
Tomato,
events,
tomato.
Then we'll form a learning center, turn them into TLOs and all that good stuff.
Right.
So that's what we're saying? Is that what we all?
That's all TLO or METs, a
Okay.
series of but
Sure.
same
Okay, so
principle.
these are objectives. All right, so then I would suggest, my
Yeah.
argument would be that if that's the end state, and to your point, even if I'm a basic instructor and you're teaching me the first day, you need to teach me how to establish relationships with my students. So even though that seems like it's a higher level task of developing peers, things like that, I still need to understand that that concept exists. So my suggestion would be that these are throughout the entire spectrum. It's not a matter of whether a basic instructor can do pull-ups or not. It's a matter of whether they do 3, 10, or 20.
Exactly.
So if I'm an expert, I do 20. If I'm a beginner and I just got to boot camp, I'm doing 3. So I'm saying all that to say this. It seems to me that it's a level of awareness, and it's just a degree of what do we expose to them when they're mature enough to handle it, and you know your TPD. So if I'm Nick the new guy and I go to the basic instructor course, you're going to teach me, you're going to introduce me to all these concepts, you're going to teach me all these things, and you're going to make me aware to the level that I can handle it. Then you're going to send me out into the formal learning center, and I'm going to go get some experience. And I'm going to either confirm what you taught me to be true, or I'm going to deny it, I'm going to come back and learn something new. So, or I'm going to contribute to the process and tell you that you were wrong. Is that making sense?
Yes.
Yeah, like
So-
your at level 1, your means of assessing effectiveness is to not create barriers and to,
Yeah,
you know, the basic things that we teach instructors now.
yeah,
But
exactly.
we use that as an overarching learning outcome, because that way they understand that there's a continuum that they follow down with, and it's all based on assessing effectiveness.
Yeah, and so if I'm a facilitator, I'm teaching, these guys one-on-one, I'm gonna say, hey, guys, today I'm gonna teach you developing subordinates and peers, and I'm gonna tell you about rapport. Now, about 3 or 4 years from now, when you're a Jedi, you can read minds and cause people to do stuff.
Yeah.
But for today, you just need to learn how to crawl, and then that's what's gonna happen in the course, so.
Yes, so all 10 things need to be written on the board.
That's what I'm saying. Master Sergeant, put it,
Nice. Movement.
Can I offer
Command
something?
decision.
That's a
No,
little-
sit down.
Little matrix, it kind of does that, but maybe it makes it easier to kind of focus.
Isn't this the matrix, right?
Yes, but it includes that on the left column. We have our instructor, and then we have the 4 basic buckets that the instructor duties to prepare. They prepare, they teach, they reflect, and then they self-improve. And then the column on the left are our 10 competencies, and then how do we touch on each of those competencies in each of those different phases the instructor performs, right? It looks better on there, but it's prettier on paper. It does.
Everybody wanted to go away from the overhead projector.
So Marcy, what was that again? I overheard Chad, and he just, to me, his observation was pretty accurate. He
Yeah,
said,
I just kind of
jobs.
graphically tried to capture what everybody was saying, so we have the 10 competencies on the column, and if we matrix them out, like in the 4 different areas,
Gotcha.
and then we draw our lines, and then we can see how how we are addressing each of those competencies in each of those phases.
I can. You want me to do it on the laptop instead? It'll pull up on this screen.
That would probably be better.
Okay.